Okay.
We're on.
Not yet. It's still loading.
Will you give me a signal?
I will. Yeah, I'll give you a thumbs up when it's.
Okay. Of course. It's my phone. Hi.
Cut that thing off.
Interesting. Okay.
What is that?
It's just a minute. Hi, everybody. I'm Melissa Tuckey. I am
That's Reuben calling Melissa.
Reuben. Yeah, somebody answer that. We'll start in just a minute. We're having a little telephone interruptus distraction.
Those are spirits.
Hi, I'm Melissa Tuckey, and I am co-host of this reading with Jacqueline Johnson. And thank you so much for joining us to celebrate the life and the poetry of our friend, the late Reuben Jackson, on his birthday. We're here to read from Reuben's recently published book, My Specific Awe and Wonder, and to build support for a poetry prize that's being created in Reuben Jackson's name. Before we begin, I want to thank Black Earth Institute for their support of this event. Black Earth Institute is a left-leaning think tank that brings together artists, poets, and intellectuals around issues of earth, spirit, and social justice. And they publish the journal About Place, which I encourage you to seek out. Reuben Jackson was a poet, a jazz scholar, a radio DJ, a teacher, and a music critic, born in Georgia and raised in Washington, D.C. He graduated from Goddard College and lived many years in Vermont. There, he hosted Friday Night Jazz on Vermont Public Radio. In Washington, D.C., he served as a curator of the Smithsonian's Duke Ellington collection for more than 20 years and served as archivist for the University of the District of Columbia's Felix E. Grant Jazz Archives. His music reviews have been published in the Washington Post, the Washington City Paper, Jazz Times, and featured on All Things Considered. Reuben's poems have been published in over 40 anthologies, including This Is the Honey, an anthology of contemporary Black poets edited by Kwame Alexander and published in 2024. His first volume of poetry, Fingering the Keys, which Joseph Brodsky picked for the Columbia Book Award, was published in 1991. His second collection, Scattered Clouds, New and Selected Poems, was published in 2019. His final collection, My Specific Awe and Wonder, was recently published and is hot off the press from Rootstock Publishing. Reuben Jackson is survived by his life partner, Janine Michelle. Reuben was a good friend and we miss him dearly. He had a huge heart and he contributed mightily to our communities. We are honored to celebrate him tonight on his birthday and to celebrate the release of his third book. We have a great reading for you tonight. I want to now introduce my co-host, Jacqueline Johnson, who is a poet, writer, editor, art quilter, and a senior fellow at the Black Earth Institute in Brooklyn, New York.
Hi, greetings, everyone. Um, and happily heavenly birthday, Reuben Jackson. We know you somewhere out here all around us. I want to thank you. I want to thank the audience for attending this evening's reading. And special thanks to the poets who have agreed to participate. Each poet will read for 5 minutes. Listen, I did not have the privilege of knowing Reuben Jackson, but I witnessed the outpouring of love for him. When I saw grown men, the Rooster Clan, men who carried music and mojo, come out and praise him, I said to myself, who is this dude? And as I read about him and came to find aspects of myself in him, what I share with him is a love of music, a love of jazz, and the makings of late night radio hosts. A long time ago, I co-anchored a late night jazz program at WNYU. I, I like how Reuben cultivated his love of history, archive, poetry, and music, and the various ways he shared it with community. Um, I want to take a moment and I want to remind you the link to make a donation is listed on the live stream. So go for it while we do this presentation. I would like to introduce Mariana McDonald. She's a poet, writer, scientist, activist, and a Black Earth Institute scholar. She currently lives in Atlanta, Georgia. Mariana?
Thank you. Wow. Well, when Reuben Jackson died suddenly in February, people were shattered with grief. Reuben was one of those people who, the longer they're gone, the clearer their importance becomes. We asked, how can we preserve his legacy? Make sure people learn about his many gifts to poetry and music. Throughout creative communities, conversations buzzed about how to honor Reuben. The idea of an Academy of American Poets College Prize emerged. The AAP College Prize program involves over 200 colleges that conduct an annual poetry prize competition. The prize helped launch the careers of many esteemed poets, including Harjo, Toi Derricotte, and Louise Glück. The AAP College Prize program has been an indispensable way of nurturing young poets. I had some experience organizing AAP College Prizes and began talks with the Academy. I spoke with Development Director Cheryl Woodruff, who helped us explore options. It was Cheryl who informed us of the sad news that Goddard College, Reuben's alma mater, had been abruptly closed down. Howard University, with its creative writing program, was a clear possibility. Howard is an outstanding university, a historically Black college or university, with a history of excellence in literature reflected in its outstanding writer alumni, Toni Morrison, Paul Laurence Dunbar, and Zora Neale Hurston, among others. The next step was gauging Howard's interest. We were thrilled when the amazing and wonderful Dr. Toni Medina, director of the creative writing program, enthusiastically said yes. The only thing left was to raise the funds. To that end, we formed the Reuben Jackson Poetry Prize Project, a small group of poets and artists whose goal is raising funds for the prize, which in turn serves the broader purpose of promoting Reuben's legacy while building community among creatives. The way the AAP College Prize works is it's an endowed prize, which means once the requisite funds, $5,000, are raised, the prize is endowed in perpetuity. AAP generously offered the use of its fundraising mechanism, the Give Lively platform, along with technical and logistical support. The offer was both to help us establish this prize and because AAP is interested in promoting peer fundraising. We are a test case for future community-based fundraising for poetry. We happily accepted and began working with Cheryl to set up our Give Lively page, which went live August 31st, the day of the release of Reuben's My Specific Awe and Wonder, made possible by Rootstock Publishing, and a major memorial for Reuben in Vermont, his second home. We're thrilled to announce that we've already raised well over $3,000, and we're confident we'll reach our goal by mid-November, which will ensure the prize will be inaugurated at Howard in the spring. It will be the second AAP College Prize at an HBCU. Our campaign is fittingly full of poetry, like tonight, with this evening reading for Reuben's birthday, lovingly organized by Melissa Tuckey and Jacqueline Johnson. On behalf of the project, I thank you all for being here and supporting us. We're honored to be part of this exciting effort, something wonderful and hopeful in the midst of these terribly dark times. Together, we'll help ensure that Reuben Jackson's remarkable legacy is preserved and shared, that future generations of poets will echo what we say today with gratitude, pride, and love. Reuben Jackson lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariana. We so appreciate all of your effort in helping orchestrate this poetry prize, and just want to remind folks as we're doing the reading that you can contribute. Find the link on the YouTube, share it with your friends. We're almost there. And we're going to reach our goal maybe tonight. Our first reader tonight is Saida Agostini, a Black queer poet, lover of Luther Vandross, and an author of Let the Dead In, a full-length collection of poems. Welcome, Saida.
Thank you so much. It's really such an honor to be here, and I'm really grateful for the invitation. Yeah, and just want to add that Reuben was really instrumental in supporting me, even when he didn't know me, and actually helped me publish my first book. So just so much gratitude to someone with such a big heart. This is from the Adirondack Chair. When youngins, poets mostly, say elder, they spout it, having concluded that anyone over 39 sat a couple of rows back from Sappho in grade school. In the days and weeks before bistros, where they freestyle long past midnight, fell to earth, while you, erstwhile scribe emeritus, hair white as this gentrified city, dream of days and weeks of flawless skies. And the last poem I'll read is Kelly Donaldson Jr. reflects on the changing same. Dogs have always loved me. It's genetic. I used to tell the regulars at Clifton's barbershop the shop whose picture window gave regulars a vivid view of the moving vans, ferrying soon-to-be ex-white neighbors to less terrifying lands. Now Clifton's and most of the regulars exist only in memory. But the dogs on the other end of high-end leashes approach me with the same love I've always been blessed to engender. The nervous and or averted eyes of their owners are as familiar as the ghosts of the city which raised me, some of whom are commemorated on equally lonely historical plaques. Thank you.
Up next, we have Abdul Ali. Is Abdul here?
Nope.
Think he's here yet.
Okay, go ahead, Melissa.
Okay. Up next, we have Tara Betts, a professor in peace studies at DePaul University. She is the author of Refuse to Disappear, Break the Habit, and Arc and Hue.
I'm going to read a couple brief poems by Reuben from the latest book, My Specific Awe and Wonder. But I'll say really quickly that DC was the place I really thought about moving to at one point. And there are so many poets in DC that I really respected. And I kind of tracked down Fingering the Keys way before I met him, looked up his radio show, and I kind of built him up kind of big in my mind, you know, but when you meet Reuben, or if you met Reuben, in a time where we have a lot of poets who are pretentious, posturing, and full of far too much hubris for what poetry means in the larger world, he was so humble and sweet. Like, that's the thing that I took away from him. And really shy. Yeah. But if you got him to talk to you, you felt like it was your big brother, your best friend, because he was so sweet to people. And I think we don't see that enough in the poetry world, the way he exemplified that. So I'll just say that and be like, I miss him. I miss his little notes. Or he'd send you a song, or just be like, he'll crack a joke. Yeah. So I'm gonna get it together. And I'll read this short poem and a slightly longer poem. Country music. White men guard the 6-foot space, separating my table from the nearest blonde. I am as nervous as a guitarist, moments from an audition with Merle Haggard. When a fight destroys the picture window, should I join in on the laughter? Would my silence be perceived as uppity? A man the size of Texas buys me a beer, then asks if the lead singer would make it in the soul field. He wants an answer. An hour later, he's stuffing the jukebox as if it is a collection plate at the Church of Furlan Husky. He plays nothing but love songs, just like my dad. And I love Reuben's sense of history. I did a workshop at Split This Rock, and he was the oldest person who came, and I was like, dude, you didn't have to be here. You know this. But he wrote the best poems that day. Everybody else was like, we write poems about history, but he was the one. He followed me every step of the way and just was being himself. And I don't know if he wrote this poem that day, but I definitely see the part where it kind of could have come from that. Kelly recalls 1963. I still call the year 1963 season of nightmares. After Medgar Evers was killed, I would lie awake and wait for Uncle Joe to get home safely. He and Aunt Blanche had the same kind of carport Mr. Evers had. I know because I read an article about his assassination over and over in Ebony magazine. Even when my uncle was safely sleeping on the couch, I could not rest because I now knew that we were hated for being who we were and are. Then the 4 little girls in Birmingham died in that bombing. Who will protect us? I asked the moon on countless southern nights. So, Reuben Jackson from Specific Awe and Wonder.
All right, thank you, Tara. Up next, Kenneth Carroll.
I'm not sure which. It's me.
Senior.
No, Larry.
I'm gonna go. Senior is telling me to go. But they're both here. Hi everybody. I'm really happy to be here. Really honored to be sharing. I'm gonna do like a Reuben Jackson sandwich. I'm gonna read some Reuben, then I'm gonna do a short poem I wrote for him, and then I'm gonna end with a Reuben Jackson quote. So this is also what I read at his memorial. It was from a Facebook post that Reuben posted during National Poetry Month, I believe 2 years ago. So it's called National Poetry Month, Navel Gaze. When my 10th grade homeroom teacher asked me, and I still don't know why, or tasked me, excuse me, and I still don't know why, with writing a poem for the next edition of the school newspaper, I deliberately wrote what I considered to be a truly horrific, mawkish ode. My planned rejection didn't work. I had no idea that I would fall deeply in love with the art form, nor did I envision where this romance would take me. Nonetheless, I was hooked. Granted, most of it fell into 2 categories: works which reeked of mimicry and just plain old nah. Still, I continued, reading everyone from Dylan Thomas to Nikki Giovanni. I have always been in love with the sound of language. These authors shaped works which honored sound, craft, passion, and destiny. How did they do that? Could a certain awkward teenager come reasonably close? During a recent program honoring the late poet, journalist, blithe spirit, Askeek Muhammad, fellow poets Kenneth Carroll and Bianca Samik also took part. I said that none of us makes it anywhere by ourselves. I am eternally grateful for those teachers, high school, college, peers, students who encouraged, counseled, and sometimes kicked my nerdy behind. I didn't see what they saw in me, but like I said, I was hooked. The word, as I often call it these days, has enriched my life 1,000-fold. A fairly decent poem is as close as I'll get to, say, a Billy Strayhorn ballad. And now that I'm a little less hard on myself, I appreciate this highway even more. This could go on all night, but I won't let it. Thank you for reading this. Thank you for supporting Reuben the person, not Reuben the job title. As a great vocalist said at the conclusion of an interview, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm going to try and give you more. That was Reuben Jackson. A short poem for Reuben Jackson. When a legend dies, do we look for them in pictures, old Facebook posts and notes forgotten beneath desks? Do we look through memories like boxes of vinyl, flipping, trying to find their name in bright stenciled lettering? Do we look into the tree's heaviest branch? Do we look at the purple blossoms opening like a teenager at a dance? Do we look at the buttercups, the tulips, the pretty girls with flowers for names? Do we look at the way the sun pulls people out of their homes and into another body? Reuben, I find you in the hand I reach for at the bar, in the honeybees and beetles, in the days so busy I forget to worry, Heading to your memorial service, I saw you growing in an alleyway, honeysuckle scaling the barbed wire, your smile in a little boy's mouth exiting the 70, and later my father's sigh. Soon we'll be swimming with you in the heat of that blue sky. Till then, I'll trace you in my living, repeating your words against wintry stone. It's good to be alive. It's good to be alive. It's good to be alive. And lastly, a short quote for Reuben from Reuben that I thought was pertinent for everything. This was about Harry Belafonte, but I think, we can all relate a bit. You know what's gangsta? Integrity, compassion, persistence, humanity. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you, Kenny.
Kenny Carroll.
And our next poet is Kenny Carroll. Kenneth.
Thank you all. Thanks for everybody for pulling this together on Reuben's birthday. I'm going to read 2 of his pieces from a journal, from Cultural Daily, and they kind of fit with his birthday. And then I'll read a last piece that I wrote for him. The first one is called Autumn 1975. I asked a certain maple for its phone number. Not for me, I insisted, but for my bedroom window. So when the October wind comes to visit, the sound of soon-to-be vanished leaves knocking against the glass like inspiration or a lover's head meeting the headboard will conspire to briefly evict the posse of sorrows from my brain, like a bartender serving a 90-proof glass for free. Second piece is Sunday afternoon, East Glover, Vermont. 2-lane roads twist like an awkward boy at a house party. Chamber of Commerce, autumnal breezes say it is okay to be an October-smitten brother in a corny plaid jacket, which screams, I too fell in love with Technicolor fairy tales about this place. I am a concrete weary man, en route to a tryst with trees and silence. I wave to blushing hills, check the rearview mirror for police suffering from a drought of quotas. But now it is as calm as a day in which my Blackness is unsettling for some people. Somewhere, God is watching football on a flat screen. I share my wishes with the sky. And the last piece I wrote was, again, as Kenny read, his piece for Reuben that we did at his memorial in DC. This piece is based on the last conversation he and I had together. This is called Reuben in Palestine. We sit in the Sunday sun of the arch walk. It is laughter and smiles that bloom between us. Sammy's multi-tongue art and Brandon's MC prep. Today you tell me that you were supposed to go to Palestine, a writer's retreat, to share your Carolina, DC aesthetics, to discover that the breeze from the Mediterranean carries the verses of Baraka and Darwish, Jordan, and Tuquan. You say, suppose, like that Black folks suppose, like we suppose to be equal, like that disappointment that wakes you up for several hundred years in a racist nation, takes a morning walk with you for several decades. You, Reuben, economic user of cuss words, say, it's a motherfucking shame. Shorthand for amputated bodies and rubble as tomb for entire generations of imprisoned poets and their poems tortured and ripped from the land like ancient olive trees. Mm-hmm. Call it US-funded exile if you like, refugee blues in your own land. You say my mother was afraid, begged me not to go, knew that if they killed Rachel Corrie, they'd kill Reuben Jackson, her baby boy. And so your cup filled with another regret. We imagine the overflowing journals, nightly talks of poetics and freedoms, and Shorter and Bly with writers from river to the sea. They would have loved you as I love you, as you loved us. Go now, Reuben, as spirit. Go now to Rafa, Khan Yunis, Jabala. Go now to the West Bank, unfettered. Go now as wind-blown ashes to tell the living and the dead, the tortured and the resistant. Let them hear your words. Assure them that freedom will come like pages of scattered clouds. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Kenneth. Up next, Cornelius Eady, who is the co-founder of Cave Canem and is a professor of English at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Good, good. So I just want to tell you that Kenny Carroll stole the poems that I was going to read. He read the exact two poems
Hey, you
that I picked.
got good taste, brother.
I know, I'm with you, man. I hear you, brother. I hear you, brother. I'm about to give you flowers because I'm thinking Kenny Carroll knows where it's at.
Thank you, my brother.
That's right, because but I'm going to read one short poem from by him. But I just want to get into this idea about I'm so happy that we're doing this. This is real bomb in a really crappy time that we're all going through. And I'm really glad we are paying attention to to his work, to what he's left behind. And I'm so happy that we are doing this fundraising for him. It makes so much sense to have a fund for for people who can actually have a moment where they can actually be seen, right? And that's Reuben, right? And I also love this the fact that the connection to my old DC days, heartful. I'm so glad we're doing something like this. I needed to see something positive today, and this was totally it. So thank you for everybody. If people are looking in, put your hands in your pockets and give some money. Some money. Because it is totally worth it. It is something that puts that pulls things forward, not backward. And I love what we do for each other, right? I love what Black poets do for each other. That we actually, I'm not trying to excuse anybody who wasn't Black in that sentence, but I love the way we gather the ones so they don't get left behind, like Lucille Clifton, for example, right? We're gonna make sure that she's not gonna be forgotten. So let me read this one short poem. I was gonna read those other poems that Kenny got, because what I loved about those two poems was that he loved Vermont. He was a Black body, very, very, very wide space. And I love how those poems talk about how he negotiates those spaces, right? Right? He doesn't leave anything out. He puts in the beauty, but he doesn't leave out the tension, right? Right? And I think those poems are really unique, and I'm so glad that he wrote these. His sense of memory is fantastic. So I'm going to read a really small poem by him called 7th Grade. My fear-stained life catches its breath on a path beneath a crosstown posse of maples who have no interest in taking the bus fare in my back pocket. I swear I heard the August breeze whisper, "Are you sure you want to go back home?"
Sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Cornelius. It's beautiful reading. Our next poet is Melanie Henderson, and Melanie is editor, photographer, publisher, and author of Elegies for New York Avenue. She was born, raised, and lives in Washington, D.C.
Good evening, everyone. And thanks for joining this momentous celebration for the wonderful Reuben Jackson. I'll keep it short, otherwise I'll get a little tearful. But when I encountered Reuben, he was a reminder to me that there was still good in the world. And I'll leave it there. I'm going to share two poems from an anthology called Where We Stand, Poems of Black Resilience. Some contributors to this are on this call, Tara Betts, Toni Medina, Kenny Carroll, and some others who will join later. Very fortunate to have work included from our beloved Reuben Jackson. Reflection number 9. Never once had I seen a poet in dull brown orthopedic shoes, thick, nerdy glasses, yes. The stoop I nursed was my mending wall, a semi-respite from the neighborhood's rage. Who knew that beneath my guarded gaze, I was rifling through my head for words I'd use to praise mountains. Promises, promises. The next woman who calls me rude might be asked to chip in on a bottle of anti-swoon medication. Or she might receive a poem written after I ask the evening sky for a phrase rhyming with sleepless nights, in which an aging brother's heart shrugs its shoulders and begins the terrifying journey to blossom.
Yeah, Reuben.
Thank you, Mel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, Tyemba Jess, the author of Olio. There will be a stage performance of Olio at Jack later this month. Libretto by Tyemba and music by Janice Lowe. Tyemba, you have to unmute.
Yes. It's really an honor to be here amongst all these spirits who are gathered in honor of Reuben Jackson. I did not really get to know Reuben very well at all, but I was very much moved by understanding his story and reading his work, and also really being touched by the way he touched so many people that have been so close to me. There's a lot of DC crew here. I'm very close to Cave Canem, and DC is almost like there was DC before there was CC, because there were so many people from DC that were in Cave Canem, especially my first year there, and they were very influential in my life. To understand that this brother who was on the life path with them and on the literary path with them touched them so deeply. And also I understood that we have some kind of parallels, because I understand he was a really moved by the music, and so was I. And I think we both have a similar kind of DJ history. I was a radio DJ for about 10 years in Chicago. So I think we share some of that. But with all that, I did find this poem, Elegy for Prince, which it's always good to bring the purple one into the mix. This is Reuben's poem, Elegy. Shout out to tough, tender spirits, alternately swaggering and slow dancing with silence. Let the drummer take a cue from the sound of high heels on the roof. A falsetto is sunlight set to music. Longing was and is my major, but there are days when you must create odes to a magnificent boutte, taking your spirit around the world in a day. And I'll read one of my own, coming from the city of Chicago, and being moved into the spirit of the music and the blues. This is from a place called the Checkerboard Lounge that's no longer there. But it was a great blues spot. Long live the Checkerboard Lounge. Slow steeped in Buddy Guy's Stratocaster calloused fingertips, conjured from collard green Mississippi choruses. Checkerboard, you scotch and whiskeyed a razor-cut funk into my bony youth. Anointed me your high-heeled sneakered sneer, pushed my head into the diatonic mouth of hungered harmonica hole, birthed this Motown child into a cauldron of juke, spread my legs akimbo with shuffle, coated my tongue with Southside pavement checkerboard, transom door to Eshu's greedy workshop of gyrated hip, cellar beneath the gospel moan of Thomas Dorsey's precious hands on tattered keyboard. You bore me to strummed sacred wattage near the intersection of Martin Luther King Boulevard and Muddy Waters Drive. I still savor each holler you spat into my mouth, the humbucked feedback you lesioned into my brain, dear checkerboard. University of carnal capacity, delivered unto metal and smoke. You rode me into Chicago's gunshot dawn with lopsided grin on my hips. I stride, stagger your neon corpuscles through every door I wander.
Thank you, Tyemba. Our next reader is Mariana McDonald, poet, writer, activist, Black Earth Institute. Oh no, sorry. I missed one. I don't want to do that. I'm backing up. Sorry. Our next poet is Jacqueline Johnson, poet, writer, editor, art quilter, senior fellow at Black Earth Institute, and my co-host, Jacqueline Johnson.
Thank you. I have two poems I'll read. The first one is for Trayvon Martin. Instead of sleeping, I walk with him from the store. No Skittles, thank you. We do not talk much, sneakers crossing the courtyard, humid southern night. We shake hands and hug, ancient stoic tenderness. I nod to the moon. I'm so old school, I hang till the latch clicks like an unloaded gun. This next one for Duke Ellington. Music is your mistress, demanding constant love and international settings. As always, you stroll beside her. Grumpy orchestra springs into elegance at the drop of your hand. Even so, there are casualties. The years pass, you bury rabbit and sweet pea, run your fingers across the back keys, dip the color into your hair. Cancerous nodes rush toward a harrowing cadenza. Pen kisses paper. A lover in no particular hurry. The music reveals itself, a negligee black note at a time. Okay, I'm up to introduce Mariana McDonald. Mariana is a poet, writer, scientist, activist, and Black Earth Institute scholar. She currently resides in Atlanta, Georgia.
Hi, I'm going to read from this wonderful My Specific Awe and Wonder, which actually you can't see very well here. But, and I want to shout out to Samantha, Samantha Colbert and Rootstock Publishing for making this happen. It was in the works, and they persisted after his death. And my understanding is that Janae, his partner, gave them some drafts. And what they decided to do, which I think was brilliant, was to scan them and include the drafts in this collection. And that's kind of unusual and very wonderful. And it's the last section. And so I'm going to read from that one. And I'm going to read two poems. The first is called Visiting the Fam on Mother's Day. Her father silences the way he lived, minus the daily razor and change of well-pressed clothing. Nearby trees nod like my brother as I share my 60-something life, busy, imbalanced life, like a finger painting done in grade school. No one offers wisdom or seems slighted over the size of the overpriced bouquet hugging mother's stone. And the next one is so typical Reuben in its essentialness and brevity. It's called God Bless Those. God bless those who cared for a brother with more flaws than a factory second.
Thank you, Mariana. Our next poet is Toni Medina, author of 25 books. He's associate chair and director of creative writing in the Department of English at Howard University.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to use my NPR voice. For you lay people means your indoor voice. I just want to say I'm really honored to be here. Before I want to give a shout out to Mariana for this occasion, and Melissa, Jackie Johnson, E. Ethel Miller, and whoever else is on the board or the committee for this award. It's very needed. I'm honored to have it at Howard University. I want to give a shout out to Cornelius Eady along with E. Ethel Miller. They both received Lifetime Achievement Awards at Furious Flower. So let's give it up for them. I'm good to be here with my boy Tahimba. Tara Betts, we go way back when she used to live. Used to live or hang out with Natasha Diggs, Nevada, Montana, all types of names that she adds on as the years go on. But Reuben Jackson, man, the more you read his work and the more you hear it, listen to it, you just like respect it more and more. And you're in awe of the way he compresses language and the juxtapositions and the humor and the slyness. It's kind of like having a combination of Lucille Clifton, Langston Hughes, and Ethelbert Miller and Cornelius Eady all wrapped up into one bag. But when I was coming up in New York, I mean, I did get kidnapped and stuff over here. But when I was coming up in New York, of course, E. Ethelbert Miller, you know, betrayed the revolution. He left the Bronx for Howard and never came back. And so E. Ethelbert Miller was already there. We already knew he was there, and he's Howard in D.C. But when I was coming up, it was Kenny Carroll, Renegade, Brandon Johnson, Brian Gilmore. These are the cats that I met and knew coming up in New York. And there was always a connection between New York and DC. And Reuben Jackson, of course. And I would run into Reuben all over the place in DC. DC is like being in Harlem or being in Brooklyn, where you could just run into cats constantly. I also ran into him at the American Poetry Museum that Sammy runs with Kenny Carroll there and Brandon Johnson all the time. And those would be fun occasions. But I'm going to read two short pieces from my anthology, Resisting Arrest, Poems to Stretch the Sky. I tapped some people to send me some work. I was going to publish one each. Reuben sent me two poems, and they just bogarted their way into the collection. This first one is called, and I'm still using my NPR voice, for Freddie Gray. I've broken my heart, arm, and two fingers, the joy of football, but never my own spine. If I ever need help with that, I know who to call. And the second and last joint is Dear Sandra Bland. You kept me up last night, not in some talk, laugh, and or cry with a friend until the sun punches the time clock for another shift kind of way. Not in a ghost hovering above the futon manner, but as quiet confirmation. The truth, my father once told me, is simple. Your wrenching absence sits beside me, makes me face what I have known for decades and carried besides joyous, sometimes goofy things. This hate for us is chronic, the real chronic, and will not willingly surrender, just as you did not.
Thank you, Toni. Up next is E. Ethelbert Miller, owner of the mysterious E, is a writer and literary activist living in Washington, D.C., and current recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award from Furious Flower.
I tell people that the E sometimes stands for ethnic, but I won't say that again. I'm really sad about Reuben's death for one thing I think about is Reuben's death comes after Greg Tate's death. And for me, I always linked them together because I remember seeing them together. And when I think of their love for music, when I think of their understanding of the music, it's a tremendous loss. And I'm happy that we're having this sort of celebration and memory of him. And I think we have another October birthday. Mary Baraka would be 90 if he was living. And so it's very important to do these things because this is what we stand. We're all not going to be here, you know. And I think what I get really angry about is that people like Reuben and Greg are younger than me, you know. And you can't, as a Black man, you just become concerned about that. Old music. Writing poems about old music is beginning to make me feel like one of those relatives you constantly avoid at gatherings. The ones who think today's music is all right. But just let them tell you about some ghost they saw at the Fillmore, the Apollo Theater, wherever. I don't think a lifelong passion for Hendrix puts me in that boat. But this isn't the same as discovering one's blackness in the mirror, baby. It's more like a hive on your tooth, spaghetti stains on your sweater. Everyone's giggling. you're the last to know.
Hmm.
And this is long distance love. A friend sends a picture of 3 chickens standing in a kind of formation on a road where the snow has begun to retreat.
Hmm.
Funny, I tell her, I was humming the theme from Green Acres last evening and thinking about people who move to rural places in search of serenity, while others yearning for a Trader Joe's. As for myself, I remain smitten with mountains majestic but unpretentious, and the way rural silence calms me, like Miles Davis playing a ballad, a serenity, my friend says, he finds in the ever-changing sky. And those are 2 poems from My Specific Awe and Wonder by Reuben Jackson, who I miss.
Thank you, Ethelbert. Our next reader is Joel Diaz Porter, author of Ideas of Improvisation, and he is a poet from Pittsburgh who is a haiku poet.
Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing? I first encountered Reuben's work in the anthology, Fast Talk Full Volume. And I remember going and asking Kenny about a couple of poets, but the main poet I wanted to know about was Reuben Jackson, this Reuben Jackson cat. And Kenny was like, yeah, he has a book. It's called Finger in the Keys. So I ran down to the bookstore and copped a copy of it. And I probably bought like 10 copies of that book. I was kind of an evangelist for it. I used to, take it around, and sometimes people would steal it. Sometimes I would give it away, but I never had a problem with getting another copy of it. But anyway, Reuben we shared a lot of things in common. A love for music, love for baseball, listening to baseball games on the radio, things like that, but especially of haiku. And the conciseness in Reuben's poems, which to me is very reminiscent of the conciseness, the melodic conciseness that Miles Davis had, I think came out of his love for haiku. So anyway, I'm going to read recite a short poem by Reuben. It's not a haiku, but it's very haiku-like. And I don't know if you ever published this, but I remember seeing it on Facebook and it stuck with me. It's February. Reuben, say something black. Late night, rural sky. And I'm going to share very quickly a couple of poems that I wrote for Reuben. They're both very short. This one is called A Black and Tan Fantasy for Reuben Jackson. What swung harder than a 20-pound pendulum or swifter than a belly dancer's hips? Swung steady as pops on the porch at night or the just oiled hinge of a garden gate? Swung easily as a child from a knotty limb or a bridge of rope in a mountain breeze? Maybe all God's chilling got rhythm, but who else could swing an orchestra like a hypnotist pocket watch? Oh, Reuben, are you sighing again about those humid Harlem nights when Duke swung like a hammock in a hurricane with nary a hair out of place?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll leave you guys with this, again, very short poem. This poem references two DC musicians. One of them, Butch Warren, was a bass player, played with, among other people, Thelonious Monk and Dexter Gordon. And then the other one is Butch Jackson, who was a percussionist. Among other people he played with was Marvin Gaye. But both of them at various times played music behind poets in DC. Kenny used to legendarily hire Butch Jackson for many a gig. So they're both referenced in this poem.
I had to pay him in drinks, though.
Y'all gonna see why that was relevant. And so there's the name of a liquor store in DC in this poem, Kogar's Liquors. So this is an idea of improvisation as an elegy on the back of a bottle for Reuben Jackson. Outside Kogar's Liquors, a double bass and a djembe meet to take measure of the deepness of the shadows between evening beats. Two butches, Jackson and Warren, sip from a circle of fifths. A bumblebee sun hums its way down until you notice the bottle's label is Kelly Green. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next up, Maritza Rivera is a Puerto Rican poet whose body of work appears in several anthologies and online publications. She is the author of A Mother's War, is the creator of the Blackjack Poetry Forum, and hosts the Mariposa Poetry Retreat since 2011.
Thank you, Jacqueline, and thank you, Melissa, for including me in this. There are two things I miss about Reuben. I don't look at Facebook as much as I used to because he would post these amazing descriptions, almost like walking down the street and just noting what was happening around him. And I missed his voice on WPFW on Sundays. And it was like I had just heard his voice. And then the next thing I knew was he had passed away suddenly. And I think Ethelbert mentioned something that I used to kid him about because he was younger than me. And anytime age came up, I would tell him that he was trying to catch up with me. And I wish he had. I am going to read something that is not a poem of his, but a description of the workshop that he taught at the 2018 Mariposa Poetry Retreat. It's called Time Remembered. The late jazz saxophonist Gato Barbieri once referred to music as the memory of dreams. What we will do in this session is listen to a few brief instrumentals, parentheses, jazz. They will serve as vehicles for your expressions. Perhaps the bass line of a particular title will remind you of a summer afternoon long ago. There are, of course, no incorrect answers. Just bring your hearts, ears, and imagination. Shyness is lovingly discouraged. And I went back to find the year that he had been faculty. And then I read this description in a completely different way. And it was just so poetic to me. And I couldn't believe it. So, and I didn't want to read something somebody else was going to read. So I knew this was not going to be one of them. Like I said, it was just so sudden to hear that Reuben was gone. And I wrote triple blackjack for Reuben. I miss the sound of his voice whispering into my ear every other Sunday. I miss his velvety voice like jazz from Dizzy's trombone on the radio airwaves. I miss his sound of surprise and wish he were still with us. The ancestors must know best. And I will keep it to that.
Thank you, Maritza. It's beautiful. Our next reader is Brandon D. Johnson. He's a poet and a photographer affiliated with the American Poetry Museum in Washington, D.C.
Hi, folks. First, I just say I feel honored to be among this August group, most definitely. My friends and legacy and peers are all here, and I really appreciate it, and especially for this occasion of reading for Reuben. He and I would text each other on a regular basis and sending stuff, see something on social media and I'd send it to him or he'd send it to me. We were always talking about music, of course, and always talking about what was going on at the market and the music and other things. We started giving each other books. Like he gave me a book on Weather Report, and I gave him a book on called This Is What It Sounds Like by producer Prince. So, and we sit at APM and just talk about some of everything. So sometimes I'll see something that I'll go, Reuben would really like this. And at one point I stopped sending the things. At one point I just wasn't sending them. Sometimes I just said, forget about it. I'm sending it to him anyway. I'm reading one of Reuben's poems in a poem I had wrote dedicated to Reuben, which I'm so glad that I got to read it to him. This is Kelly on middle age. Kelly is one of Reuben's characters. I like glaring at phone-addicted youngins who hog the seats set aside for seniors until they take their blank gazes elsewhere. I also love talking old school music with the coffee shop crew. We have no money, fixed incomes, yo, no girlfriends, and no more verbal reticence. Some days, my boy Melvin said recently, my knees creak like coffin handles in need of 3-in-1 oil. There used to be more of us laughing at his jokes.
Love it. Love it. Thank you.
And then
Sorry.
one more. This is Standing by a Shelf for Reuben. When he looks at the edges, the covers of books and records, he remembers when and where he got them, how it felt. Everything's a testament to life lived on the fringe of some sense of sanity. All the vehicles for imbibing these treasures are obsolete. Even his eyes and ears, as their function fades under each year's mud and tussle to stay alive. The damned find few who know try not to lose the memories. Talk as if each was there for the other. Laughter supplants tears. If he can, a story gets written about each song. How a chord, a lyric, the last line of a book make more sense. The same as the warnings his mother threw at fledgling feet like seeds in soil. He wishes he could buy them all again. Heed the messages, grow as if each signpost was a vitamin. Make what became a recollection, a catalyst for pathfinding and strength.
Thank you. Our last poet is Melissa Tuckey, teacher, literary activist, emeritus fellow of the Black Earth Institute. She currently lives in Ithaca, New York.
Thank you. A little slow on that mute button. Um, this has been such a full evening. Thank you, everyone, for what you're bringing. Reuben Jackson was a good friend, and I loved his poetry. I can remember the first time I heard him read, that he just slayed me. You know, his poems, for being so spare, are emotionally complex. And after his reading, I said, oh man, you know, I really was moved by the way you have both humor and sadness, you know, right next to each other in your poems. And he said, yep, that's my neighborhood. And I was like, mine too. And, you know, he was a good friend also. I feel lucky to have lived in Washington, D.C. for a few years. It meant a lot to me to be part of the community there. And Reuben was so good about staying in touch. I've been gone for 14 years, which is wild. But Reuben, I could say our friendship got deeper in the time I was gone, because staying in touch was like an art form for him. And he would share poems. He'd send a text with his beautiful voice reading a poem, just share little hellos and jokes, but also deep conversation. And I miss him. I miss Reuben had no small talk. You know, you could go up to him in the middle of a, you know, giant social gathering and just drop right into what matters. And I miss him. So this, I'm going to read two poems of Reuben's. This first one I published as editor of, guest editor of About Place with Lauren Camp. And this is Don't Misunderstand. I am and am from love-soft, planet-sized peaches on my Aunt Bertha's porch, Augusta, Georgia, Jim Crow, USA, and surreptitious sips of my Uncle Bootleg's whiskey. I am from proud crosstown strivers and up south stoops, where we dreamed and saw some dreams die. I am from Black doctors, plumbers, electricians, hustlers, bent backs as rare as white classmates after 1960. I am from Verdi love, Tawana Perkins love, ballet love, and the way light-skinned butch crooned motherfucker. Third eyes, dreamboat thighs, Debussy and Hendrix. I am more flawed than a factory second, angrier and sweeter than you think. I ask for a table for two, even when dining alone. And I'm going to read one more short poem from his beautiful book, My Specific Awe and Wonder. And we are so fortunate to have this book, and grateful to Rootstock Publishing. Thank you so much for bringing this out for us. Dear Montpellier, you are in me like Coltrane's sound. Some things just are. They need no miniseries or Facebook post. Your streets are home. Home is not an explanation or a polysyllabic treatise. Some things just are. And on that note, I want to tell you about one more opportunity, two opportunities. One, if you haven't yet given a gift to the Reuben Jackson Poetry Prize, you are invited to join us. Small to large, whatever you can give will make a difference. We are, last time I checked, we were at 3,400. I'm sure we've gone up since then. We're aiming for 5,000, and our end date is November 15. So help us get there, so we can have this annual poetry prize and remember Reuben and pass this gift on to future generations of poets.
Can I just say one thing real quick?
Yes.
The inaugural judge will be Kenny Carroll.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo. Yeah, thank you.
There goes the neighborhood.
One more opportunity. We want to invite everyone listening in and also our poets to help us continue this party. And if you've got time, take a minute, read a poem from my specific awe and wonder, or maybe just a favorite Reuben Jackson poem that you have. Videotape it, put in a plug for the fundraiser, and let's share this love. We can use a hashtag, readings for Reuben, and that way we can all connect and just, keep it going. Thank you so much. This reading has been really beautiful and moving. It's wonderful to be here with all of you. Thanks.